Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and in the wake of the bad news we saw on August 21st, the Federal Court of Appeal ruling against these ostriches and the fight for their farmers at Universal Ostrich Farms to save them, meaning the CFIA's cull order is open and it's open season for them. I am here with my boots on the ground in rural Edgewood, BC, to show you once again what's happening in the moment. In this report, you're going to see an interview with some of the owners and some of the supporters who are starting to re-show up. They've always had some supporters here, but this fight for them has been going on since January, where they've had people camping out on their property saying, why would you kill healthy ostriches that survived the avian flu instead of use them and test them to figure out how to fight the avian flu? So some people are starting to come. I already spoke to someone as far as Alberta. We're going to hear what they have to say. But as always, when we make the journey, you should know that we don't take a penny from the federal government, like 95% of media. So if you'd like to be a part of making reports like this possible, please go to savetheostriches.com to chip in what you can to cover our expenses. And you can also find out there how to help the farm too. Now, you came out from Vernon. Why was it important to show up here today?
Just because I don't want anything to happen to these ostriches, and I just feel like the government doesn't really have any right to do what they're doing right now. And if none of these birds have been sick since December, January, not sick, not dead, and I don't understand what the problem is, and trying to say that it's, I don't know, healthy birds being killed is just wrong.
Now, you came all the way from Burnaby. Why was it important to show up this weekend?
I think you said it best. They're putting policy before science, and what they're doing is wrong. And if we learn anything from COVID, we can't let the government overstep and cross these lines and get away with it.
You've been coming and going here. Why is it important to do so?
Because the property rights of Canadians are under threat, and this case exemplifies, it's gone on unbelievably long period of time now, as you know, right? Like unbelievably long. So the substance of what they say the case is about, which is whether these ostriches are sick or not, is irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant, because all of the details, like I said, because it's gone on so long, makes that all nonsense. That means it has no sense to it. So something else is going on. And it seems to me with this recent ruling, unanimous with the 3 judicials on the appeal court, that Canada, when they're ruling that this is a reasonable, and due to case law, this is a reasonable thing to do. This culling is reasonable. That's what part of their judgment was. However, that's total. That's why I say it's completely separate from the actual case itself, which is, are the ostriches sick or not? Is there any danger to anyone? Well, we know that that's all nonsense. That's obviously not the case. So do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That is not what's being decided upon. What's being decided upon is Canada ruled by global corporations now? Are we no longer an independent country with the ability to make our own laws? Does the government protect private property? Private property is our fundamental right, just like our breath.
We are asking people to come out and support, because we all deserve a better way as Canadians. The erosion of trust in organizations and our government has really been happening now with the control of seeds, with you can't go in the forest. There's all these regulations being put down, and I think we just got to start working with Canadians. So really want to see people come out to support us in Edgewood, British Columbia. We are ground zero for change. We have the momentum. We have the international awareness. All the people around the world want to see a better way, and I think that the people's voice matters, and coming together in unity and showing that we all want a better way, we can make the change.
That was just a little bit of what Katie Pasitny, the spokesperson and adult daughter of Karen Esperson, who co-owns the farm with David Belinsky, who you'll hear from as well in this report. I've already published her in full interview. So you're going to want to see that to find out exactly where they're taking the fight next, and that is linked in the description box below. But for now, let's hear more of what some of the people who have showed up had to say.
I think if you do a little bit of digging, you find out quite quickly that this most likely isn't about avian flu, and it's probably more likely about the research that they're doing, because they would be a direct competitor to the big pharmaceutical industry that we know pays for all the advertisement on the news, which is where you get your information from. So if you're still watching the old legacy news, you're misinformed.
Well, it certainly does seem like it doesn't make any sense if they really wanted to tackle avian flu that they would kill this healthy flock that is immune to it and has the antibodies in their eggs.
And this case exemplifies to me, like astonishingly, that, and I think this is the question that needs to be put to the court in a very succinct and direct way, nothing to do with the ostriches. Is Canada no longer an independent country? Are we now ruled by international, global organizations? Because it seems that we are. This entire case from the beginning, that's what the prosecution has said. Judge, respectfully, Judge, you have no choice in this matter. You must rule.
Yeah, it seems like it's a unifying issue. We've seen politicians on all levels. Even, David Eby said he wasn't really pleased with how the agency is behaving.
The Minister of Agriculture and I think British Columbians are a little bit frustrated by the actions of this federal agency. We understand the importance of containing the bird flu and the important role that agency plays. What's hard to watch is lack of discretion and ability to evaluate case-by-case scenarios. Let's take that away from the specific instant case and just talk about that generally. It's been a consistent experience that farmers have had with federal agencies. Devastating for this family, for this farm, for these folks who are trying to build a life for themselves. And I hope the federal government looks very carefully at appropriate compensation to ensure they're made whole, and not that can fill in for the massive loss that they've seen.
The international pushback, but yet still there seems to be no budge from this federal agency. What do you make of that?
I don't know. It's the only thing I can say, 2 words: political agenda. And I don't even know how to qualify that.
As the farmers and their supporters had hoped, the Trump administration acted quickly on the matter. On Monday, U.S. head of Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and animal-loving philanthropist John Katzimatidis took to a press conference calling on Mark Carney's Canada to halt their plans to cull the birds and thus preserve the flock and the vital research they're a part of.
I think we have an opportunity to do something helpful for Canada, for the United States, and the global community in general, if we can identify ways to learn from the 400 ostriches that are currently in British Columbia.
That's just a clip of the press conference. There'll be more to come at SaveTheOstriches.com.
We're 223 days today. Healthy, herd immunity, full of antibody ostriches. 223 days. So we have had no illness and no deaths on our farms for 223 days. They are thriving. Our herd of ostriches is a living vault of immunity. Once it's a renewable source, if we destroy this, we're losing decades and decades of all the environmental challenges that their bodies have went through and the antibodies that they've developed. We lose that in just by culling them and not testing them. We are still restricted to test our animals to prove their health without a threat of 6 months in jail and a $200,000 fine here in Canada.
Let's talk about the fact that there's international attention on this. There's the U.S. Head of Medicare, Dr. Oz, and the Secretary of Health, Robert Kennedy Jr., speaking up. And yet still, the federal agency is planning to go ahead and killing these birds. What do you think that's about?
I'd like to think RFK Jr. Still has good intentions. And if it is, then he understands the importance of the research. Destroying these birds is so insane. If you really truly wanted to, improve the quality of or the defense of human beings, you would be studying them. like you would do anything you could to preserve the scientific data or information that you could learn from studying these birds, and to just destroy them and get rid of them is like hiding evidence of a crime. Like why else would you want to get rid of these birds when they have antibodies, and you have people like RFK Jr. saying these birds should be studied.
Well, I hope that nothing happens to these birds, and I hope that, I know there's been talk about moving them down into the States, but the farm here is not really wanting to do that, and I can understand that. They may not survive the journey. It's a very tough thing. But my hope is that RFK has some clout. My understanding is Trump also supports this whole action against what's happening.
Well, it's his administration speaking out against it.
That's exactly right. So we can only hope that good prevails.
I mean, I was here the very first day that the very first people showed up. There was 12 of us, 11 or 12 of us.
How many months ago was that?
It was in January.
Wow, so right when they started to get healthy, right?
Well, they already were. That's why we were doing it. They already were. But I really think that we need to laser focus on that question. Is Canada an independent country? Because it seems by these judicial rulings and other rulings that are coming down, in other cases completely unrelated to this, it seems that we are no longer an independent country.
Do you think that the situation happening here at this farm with the CFIA is part of a bigger trend in Canada? And if so, in what way?
Well, we're definitely losing property rights. You're losing your right to have your own animals without threat of them being culled. So the fact that Katie and her family are actually being threatened with jail and an insane fine if they test their own animals. Like, I still can't wrap my head around that. It doesn't make sense to me. It's their animals. If they want to privately test them, how could anyone say no? That's just, I don't know, Twilight world.
And they don't want to listen to us, and they never have. And I do take encouragement from the fact that people are rallying around yet again behind this ostrich farm. And like I said, good can only prevail. That's the way I feel, and that's what I hope for. And I hope it happens soon. Enough of this emotional roller coaster for these poor people and the ostriches too.
Well, there you have it. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency has put out a statement, which I've linked in the written article for this report, which is in the description box below. But in short, they basically let the public know about the ruling in the Federal Court of Appeal, and they didn't give much leeway to when they could be coming to act on their call, saying something very vague towards the end of their statement about not typically sharing too much of that type of information. But we do know that in the past, they have said repeatedly that they intend to continue with the call despite all of the pushback, despite the fact that they could retest. It is not against their mandate to retest. They're just choosing to focus solely on the stamping out policy and missing the huge opportunity we could have in Canada, British Columbia, to partner with the United States on a better option than the mass culling of healthy animals. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News. This is another report at SaveTheOstriches.com. At Rebel News, we get our boots on the ground to tell you the other side of the story. You can find out more about this story, support our efforts to cover it, and help the farm at SaveTheOstriches.com.